Okay, well, welcome to our RegTech Edge No Borders event on data protection, domain risk, process risk, and information security solutions. In the spirit of reconciliation, the RegTech Association acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Since 2020, we've had over 19,000 people from more than 85 countries attend our programs. For this particular event, we've had 150 registrations from 18 countries. We have 20 regulated institutions, 6 governmental regulators, 7 investment firms, and 45 RegTechs. So I wish to thank you for making the time to join us today, wherever you are joining us from. A couple of housekeeping points, please. Today will be recorded and every registered delegate will receive the link. Cameras and mics off, please, unless you're presenting. Thank you. And all questions in the chat. And don't be shy. I'll ask our presenters to jump directly onto the chat to answer the questions directly that you may have for them. There will be some polls and some questions put in the chat. I'd encourage you to get involved, comment, and enable the presenters to be on their game. To our presenters, I'd like to respectfully remind you to please not go over your 5 minutes or so. You will see my face come on the screen as a visual reminder at the 4-minute, 30-second mark, just to give you that 30-second reminder. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Peter Deans from Not Without Risk Consulting, who will provide us with a quick overview on the current landscape. Peter Deans is a former Chief Risk Officer and retired from executive life in 2019 after a finance career of over 32 years. Peter is today an industry-leading risk management and strategy advisor through his firm, Not Without Risk Consulting. Peter is also currently non-executive director of NerdWallet Australia, the equities trading platform Trade for Good, and the RegTech Association. Peter is also an advisory board member for several fintechs and startup companies. He was awarded Australian Banking and Finance Magazine's Chief Risk Officer of the Year in 2014, 15, 16, and 2018. He is also the creator and founder of the 52 Risk Management Framework, www.52risk.com. And I actually don't know when he sleeps. But thank you, Peter, and over to you now.
Thank you, Alison, and good afternoon, everyone in the Australasian region. Good evening, New Zealand. Good morning, USA and Europe. Great to be here, and it's always fantastic to not only talk about regulatory and compliance solutions in the RegTech space, but also get together with fellow peers. I'm here just for literally 5 minutes. I'm not even too sure I'll get my 5 minutes through, but just to warm you up a little bit before handing over to what I know is an exciting roster of RegTechs that'll be presenting their wares this evening. The RegTech Association started in 2017, and we really have ridden this fantastic wave of innovation before COVID and after COVID, and to the point now, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry all around the world. Market studies show that between now and the end of the decade, it will grow not just in double digit, but high teens into the 20s compound annual growth rate and revenues. And I know from both speaking to members here and overseas and everything we read and see, it is a fantastic time to be in RegTech. The question is, what's driving all of this? And I've got one slide I'll talk to before handing back to Alison and also the RegTechs. It's what I like to call the six megatrends of risk management. Hong, I might just get you to move forward to that slide. I genuinely believe this is at the core of what's driving the industry. And I will go through the six. I think we're probably going to end up with about 45 seconds or so on each. Number one is this increased in interconnectedness, which is really a double-edged sword. It's opened up so many market opportunities, and particularly technology businesses, software businesses, services business. You can now trade, subject to obviously local conditions and taxes and regulatory regimes. You can actually trade anywhere in the world in many of the commodities previously unheard of. Obviously, things like video communications has made a big difference as well. The flip side is that has come with enormous risks and challenges. Trading digitally, communicating digitally has given rise to a whole new range of risks. ESG, I know the RegTech Association's had a number of forums on ESG. You know, risk management is very squarely anchored in the G. Compliance really sits across all of E, S and G, and there's again a huge subset of industry which is trying to help businesses and organisations and actually governments and communities understand ESG profiles, make sure the data that's being presented and discussed and decisions are being made on are accurate. The third one is greater stakeholder demands for transparency and accountability. And this is not just an Australian phenomenon. All around the world now, there's a lot more interest from stakeholders in what is the company doing? You know, what is it you stand for? How are you performing? And I think if you look at for listed companies, the corporate disclosures is increasing, reflecting the desire for more accountability, more transparency, and have a greater understanding of the good work that companies are doing and how they're actually meeting a range of regulatory and compliance obligations. Trend number 4, increased financial and regulatory downside. I often talk about the 4 benefits of risk management. The first one is losses avoided. I say if you invest in risk management and do the right thing, you will actually avoid losses. I often say it would be obvious, wouldn't it? And unfortunately, we still see week in, week out, many examples of organisations that just don't quite understand that there is significant financial and regulatory downside, loss of reputation, fines, sanctions, loss of contracts, loss of business. That's the 4th trend. Number 5, this is a little bit linked to the double-edged sword up the top. You know, greater use of technology, greater increased use of partnerships across borders, building of ecosystems where businesses become virtual businesses with a range of suppliers, outsourced providers, technology providers. That's actually giving rise to a whole range of technology-enabled risks. Obviously, cybersecurity is one of the biggest one. The technologies available to cybersecurity hackers, you know, firms that specialise in Eastern Europe and the other countries in getting data and information, they are technology enabled as well. So that likewise is driving a lot more investment in effectively building resilient organisations. Trend number 6, and this is really, I think, why we're here today. This is probably the biggest positive of the lot, is that in this era of innovation, we're seeing such rapid advances in risk technologies, and the RegTech Association and its members is a shining example of this. There are lots and lots of tools out there now in all of the the industry domains and verticals underneath RegTech to help businesses enable growth, make themselves resilient. And it really is, many of the larger corporates that join the association and our members contract with, I mean, they actually have an embarrassment of riches to choose from now. There are so many solutions out there, so many great ways to do things that would have either been manually done or were issues that never had to be dealt with 10, 15, 20 years ago. So that's something to think about while you're listening to the RegTechs present this afternoon. Alison, with that, hopefully that's my 5 minutes over. Enjoy the afternoon, and I look forward to hearing from all the firms.
Thank you, Peter, for that insightful overview. And I love those 6 megatrends that you highlighted that are driving risk management. So for our attendees, that slide will be included in our post-event pack that gets sent out. So never fear. Now on to our RegTechs. Our presenting RegTechs today are CastlePoint, DataZoo, DecoSecure, iCognition, RecordPoint, and RecordSure. And so now I will hand over to our first RegTech, CastlePoint.
Thank you. Hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. Could we have the first slide, please? Thank you. Or the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so hello, I'm Rachel Greaves. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CastlePoint Systems. Traditionally, cyber, privacy, audit, discovery, records management have been treated as separate disciplines, but increasingly they do overlap. Cybersecurity is no longer the preserve of national security agencies. All critical industry is now subject to national security laws due to foreign state actor threats. All corporations are at risk of confidentiality, availability, and integrity attacks on their operational and their intellectual property data. Cyber is everyone's problem now. Privacy has always been vital to cybersecurity for our own staff records due to trusted insider exploitation risk. But in the UK, for example, the Office of the Information Commissioner has been collaborating closely with the NCSC since 2016. So privacy and cyber are now closely linked. And consider records management. Privacy laws are changing across jurisdictions to require maximum retention of records rather than minimum to reduce the impact of what are now going to be inevitable breaches. And privacy and cyber laws in advanced economies require mandatory reporting, including discovering exactly what and who was breached and auditing events leading up to the spill. And this has to be done in 12 hours in some cases. Organisations have previously used one solution for each of these problems, which is inefficient and ineffective. We defined a new category of GRC software around 5 years ago to provide one solution for all of these problems in a compliant and sustainable way. Next slide, please. Thank you. We were contacted by a large university experiencing a malicious data breach. They called my general manager on a Friday night. They'd met him at a conference and they had his number. And they told him that a foreign state actor posing as an international student had exfiltrated all the content from a couple of hundred Microsoft Teams sites. And they needed to understand their exposure. So we deployed in their production environment over those 200-ish affected systems, and we registered and indexed all of the spilled information. We created a catalogue of every item in the spill, its metadata, its relationships to other records, and its content. We automatically detected sensitive personal information like credit cards, passport numbers, student IDs, and topics sensitive to them specifically, such as thesis reviews and aviation research. We coded their secrecy provisions under state and federal acts and regulations to determine the civil and criminal penalties for that spill, and we coded their records retention schedule to determine which of the spilled records were overdue for disposal, which magnifies their liability. And that was all done by Saturday afternoon. On Sunday, they could report to their board on the quantified impact of the attack and effectively plan their remediation and notification. Next slide, please. We all have too much information to manage, terabytes of data and hundreds of systems subject to dozens of handling rules for secrecy and privacy in records. CastlePoint reads all of that word by word, no matter what system it lives in. It tells us what we have, where it is, and what it's about, what inherent risk it has and value, and who's doing what to it. And importantly, what rules apply to it and whether they're being met. Next slide, please. I designed CastlePoint to provide full coverage of all enterprise data risk with no impacts. It sits in the network, managing content in place without moving or modifying it. It's agentless with no impacts on source systems, invisible to general users, and it provides true automation without burdening the governance team. Next slide, please. CastlePoint's very different to what's gone before, and that's because as auditors, when we started the company, we knew not only what a governance system must do to comply, but also what it must not do if it was to succeed. We saw and we still see too many solutions that cause detrimental impacts or don't offer true automation. Products that provide a solution for some systems, data or rules, not all, and critically systems that don't use ethical AI. These black box systems are about to be legislated out of existence for regulated purposes in the EU, UK, ANZ and USA. Next slide, please. Clients include the Commonwealth Treasury, Defence, Agriculture, Education, Industry, Health and Justice, for example, many regulators, including the Financial Security Authority. We also support critical industry and have many university clients. We support corporates like PwC and for purpose like Movember. These organisations are leading the world from a regulatory perspective, using our disruptive AI to bring a new level of control. They also now know what's possible, and their expectations for their supply chain and the organisations they regulate or administer are changing consequently. Next slide, please. I'm a certified auditor, records manager, privacy systems engineer, and security manager. Please scan to connect with me or follow up after this, or visit the website if you'd like to manage your information everywhere, or if your clients would, or if you're interested in partnering with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rach. Great presentation as per usual.
Thank
Rach
you.
is living in the UK at the moment, and we're lucky to have her back here for a short amount of time, but she's scaling considerably over there. Next, we have DataZoo. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. And thank you, Peter and Rachel, for setting the context for my talk. Can we move on to next slide, please? So my name is Mamoona Anwar. I'm Chief Compliance and Innovation Officer at DataZoo. Before we get into the topic of data protection and how we enable that, just a brief introduction of what DataZoo is. So DataZoo is global digital identity verification service provider with offices operating in 7 countries worldwide with 80 plus staff members. Next, please. Okay, so as Peter has mentioned, data breaches and risks around technology and cyber risk and risk around information security. And I believe everyone here are very much familiar with the term data breach. So data breach threatens governments, individuals, businesses altogether. And despite the technical advancements and the same technology that we are using to avoid risk and which we are using to handle data breaches, hackers are using the same technology to hack the data and make breaches possible. So IT leaders and business leaders should focus more towards containing and reducing the impact of breaches, because there is no system that can claim to be 100% breach proof. So the only thing that we can do is reduce the impact of data breach if it happens. And that will definitely help companies gain customer trust and definitely improve the revenue. Next, please. But the question is how we can do that, how companies can do that, how companies can contain and reduce the impact of breach. Specifically, when we are talking about digital identity verification, the process of identity verification that involves very sensitive and critical personal information in this whole process. So when you're choosing your identity provider, when businesses are choosing identity provider, the very first thing that they should look for is if that provider, that solution adopts privacy first approach or not. Of course, with other add-ons, for example, single integration, if it is developer friendly or not, if there is room for customization or not. But privacy and data protection should be the first thing to notice when you're choosing your identity provider. Next, please. So this is the system that we have developed. This is the identity ecosystem that we have developed at DataZoo, where privacy and security is at the core of our design, at the core of all the products that we provide services with. So how we do it? We ensure high level of data protection and privacy because we do not store any personal, although digital identity verification is a process where personal information is involved heavily, but we do not store any personal information. We do not sell any personal information. We do not process any personal information unnecessarily. We process, data is always processed within the legal jurisdiction. And this is ensured by our multiple point of presence. We have servers globally. There is no human intervention in this entire process of digital identity verification. It's 100% automated, and we use properly vetted data sources for identity verification, and we vet those data sources via our vendor due diligence or data source due diligence to ensure that privacy is embedded into our supply chain as well. Next, please. So this is how we ensure data protection in our identity verification flow. Of course, there are lots of steps involved in this process, but overall, what we do, we capture data from government issued identity document. It can be other documents, for example, your bank card. Once that data is captured, and that data is captured based on user consent, informed consent, where user gives their consent explicitly for their data to be processed for that request. We then match that data against data sources, which are authoritative data sources, and return true or false, which is whether the verification has been successful or unsuccessful, back to our client, along with the customer reference number. And after this entire process of identity verification is completed, we delete and permanently de-identify any personal information associated with it. Next, please. And this entire process is guided by regulatory guidelines globally. For example, we have ISO 27001, SOC 2. We have recently acquired UK Digital Identity and Trust Framework certification to ensure high level of data protection. Next, please. So yeah, this is the identity ecosystem we have created at DataZoo, and we are operating and we're providing our services in 170 plus countries. If you have any question related to our solution or services and how we enable data protection, please feel free to reach out. And thank you very much. And you can scan here for more information regarding our products and services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you. Over to Deco Secure.
Thank you for the opportunity to present here at RegTech today. My name is Jackie Nelson and I'm the CEO of Deco Secure. Deco Secure is an Australian technology company, and we build secure collaboration tools for organisations in government, law enforcement, financial services, and more recently, the healthcare sector. It's no mistake that we work with some of the most security conscious organisations across the globe to help them securely share and collaborate on confidential data in an easy to use and simple to deploy way. It's important to understand that Deco is IRAP assessed to the protected level and that we guarantee data sovereignty in every country that we deploy to. We all know that cybersecurity is a hot topic for all the wrong reasons right now. Companies that we know and trust are losing valuable data at a distressing rate. These companies are making sensational headlines, and rightly so, we are all shocked and dismayed. Whilst these companies have an obligation to protect us and the data that we entrust them with, protecting a large, complex organisation is extremely difficult. And of course, it's very easy to be damning of the corporates that have been breached. But the fact is, the real problem is behind the headlines. In recent months and weeks, in almost all of the breaches that have been reported, the vulnerability point has actually been the technology vendor. And in every single one of these vendor breaches, there are a couple of common themes. Number one is that all of them use the term secure in their marketing. And number two is that their secure claims almost always use the term encryption in one form or another. So if they are all using encryption and they are all as secure as they claim, why are there still so many breaches that are putting the companies that trust them at risk? For the next few moments, I want to help you understand a concept that is absolutely critical when it comes to truly protecting data. It is called the zero knowledge security model and is quite possibly the single most important concept when it comes to information and data security today. To highlight the problem very simply, companies must share data online. Gone are the days of relying on USBs, hard drives, and manual or unsecure means for moving confidential or sensitive information around complex ecosystems. I am yet to meet a single cybersecurity professional anywhere that does not agree that encryption is the safest way to truly protect data. But the problem is, not all encryption is created equal. Basic encryption used by most technology vendors only protects the data in transit and at rest, but of course leaves it completely open when the data is at work. And this is where the problem lies. Complete data protection can only be guaranteed when data is encrypted at rest, in transit, and at work. This is called end-to-end encryption and is incredibly difficult for organisations to achieve. When end-to-end encryption is deployed correctly as part of your security model, your data cannot be decrypted without the keys. But to achieve zero knowledge on top of end-to-end encryption, it requires additional capability. Authentication, authorization, auditability, and key management are all essential components that will guarantee zero knowledge and eliminate data being lost or stolen in a breach. So just to wrap this point very clearly, if vendors are not using the zero knowledge security model, breaches are going to continue to happen. Well, the good news is that Deco Secure uses zero knowledge end-to-end encryption to eliminate data breaches and stop confidential data ending up in the wrong hands. Deco is a powerful web-based platform that enables secure sharing, e-signatures, live document editing, and video conferencing. We help organisations replace manual and cumbersome ways of sharing, such as using USBs, FTPs, and hard drives, and we replace it with a proven and secure digital alternative. Companies use our platform to share market and time-sensitive information, to sign documents, to perform live editing, and to discuss highly sensitive operational requirements. Deco is a global solution that allows organisations to share securely across a connected network of trusted users efficiently and at speed. If you would like to learn more about our solution, please visit our website or reach out to me directly. Thank you very much.
On to you, iCognition. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. Hi, everybody. I'm Nigel Carruthers-Taylor. I am one of the directors of iCognition and appreciate you spending the time with us. I'm going to tell you about iCognition. We are an information management and governance specialist. And that's a bit of a mouthful, so I'll explain what that means in a moment. If I could have the next slide, please. And here are the happy, smiling faces of the directors, me being one, when I was a bit younger. We've actually been operating for over 20 years, mostly in the government space, but also in financials and education and the not-for-profit sector. Have the next slide, please. So what do we do? Okay, so you could boil it down to this. We manage content. If that's records, that is documents, that is information objects of type and how they relate to secure data, and being able to present them in a way that you can use in your digital transformation processes. And importantly, making sure they meet compliance, privacy, and security requirements in a very strong way at the back end. So what does that mean? We start with helping you with your strategic planning around managing your information, either in a particular line of business case or in a more enterprise case. We help you develop business cases. We help you actually analyze what information you have, and we have software as well as processes that can help you define what's in there, including what PII you have, help you clean it up, help you deduplicate it, help you actually classify those things. And then we can put together an implementation strategy to actually secure that information and make it available to digital processes. Next slide, please. Here's an example. A couple of years ago, Perpetual Limited came to us. They have some important trust and mortgage records that they receive, and they wanted to make sure that they were meeting their compliance requirements and making sure they are secured appropriately. It gets very strongly audited every year, and there are very strong processes in place to ensure the governance of these records are controlled and managed. But importantly, they also wanted to make sure they were available to their business processes and to their clients that they needed. So they asked us to secure this in our cloud service and manage it, which we have done since 2020, and therefore being able to integrate it into other line of business systems to ensure the digital processes are met and that their clients can access the data appropriately. So this has been a strong success record. It is a managed service that we provide in a cloud capability that is secure to the level of ISO 27001 and IRAP to the level of protected. And all this came about because they originally said, let's get you engaged in a consultancy to see what this information is and how we can manage it better. And so because we were involved in that consultancy, we then put together a strategy for them and help them actually implement it and then manage the system ongoing. Next slide, please. So the main system that we now actually use in presenting to our customers is a solution called Ingress. It has a backend using OpenText, and it is a content services platform. Next slide, please. What it does is it ensures that information can be accessed from your line of business systems in a very strong, capable way and a very secure way. It orchestrates information across multiple sources, so you can find information across Teams, across SharePoint, across your network drives, across other OpenText systems. And then once you've actually found that information, you can deliver that information through a service into business applications so that your end user does not have to navigate away from that application in order for you to get the job done, or that user to get the job done. So if they're operating in Teams, they stay in Teams, but the information is surfaced up by Ingress. If they're in SAP, it's surfaced up through SAP by Ingress. That means you can build automated processes, customer-centric services, information flows in a way that is in the context of that end user's process. So it's the old information management paradigm. You want the right information to the right person at the right time in the right business application. But in the meantime, you want to make sure that information is managed at the back end, it's governed appropriately, it's secure, it meets compliance requirements using artificial intelligence or by deliberate user end action so they can understand the context of that record. Next slide, please. We are operating in an extensive range of clients, financial institutions such as Morgans and Perpetual, large government departments ranging from foreign affairs, infrastructure, agriculture, through to New South Wales government organisations. We're also involved in the security agencies such as the ACIC. We work for large enterprises such as universities and councils, state emergency services, and also not-for-profit. And that's it. Thank you very much. If you want to know more, please go to our website, icognition.com.au.
Thanks so much, Nigel. That was great. Over to RecordPoint, please. Thank you.
Hi, and thanks everybody for making the time, and some great presentations there from everybody. It's great to see the community moving on. I'm Anthony Woodward. I'm the CEO and co-founder of RecordPoint. We've been around a little while. If we just go to the next slide, please, Hong. We've really been helping organizations make sure that they don't end up on the front page. So we're all aware, and I don't want to go over what we've seen a little bit already, Medibank, Optus, Latitude, Target in the United States, the breaches that have happened at Kogo in Europe. These are significant business-changing events that are happening inside the enterprise today. We can go to the next slide, Hong. We've really focused for the last decade on making sure that customers' data is what they should be holding, how they're managing it, and ensuring that their regulatory controls meet the needs that their customers actually have. And that's key to what our focus has been at RecordPoint. We have just a little under 200 customers worldwide. We're originally based here out of Australia. If we go to the next slide, Hong. But we have a series of different offices around the globe. Our core focus has been in 6 key areas. We are well known, and it comes from our name RecordPoint, of being in the records management domain, and have done that for some time. Top of the line, Gartner reviewed, Forrester reviewed capabilities. I think by last count, about a third of the Australian population have some of data in our platform, managed through its life cycle. What is unique about RecordPoint and what we've really focused on is the in-place management of all data, structured, unstructured, all of the elements that make up the data within the enterprise can be protected. We started that in our records management tool with about 1,000 connectors upstream. So we work with Salesforce, ServiceNow, Microsoft platforms, you name a platform, and we've got a connector for it. We've expanded out from that core capability of records management based on our customer needs to really look at data privacy. How do we understand what is in those systems? How can we inventorize and create an inventory of the risks inside those systems? How can we categorize that risk so that there's clear, actionable outcomes from those systems? How can we then run disposal, run data minimization to ensure that the risk in those systems has been pruned and dealt with? And lastly, how do we migrate data across systems in an end-to-end SaaS managed platform? And that's key because there's a lot of products on the market that aren't true SaaS. They're just hosted capabilities that don't give you that end-to-end, highly encrypted, highly secure platform capabilities. You go to the next slide, please, Hong. As I mentioned, started here in Australia, very much our engineering and our regulatory capabilities have been built out of the Australian continent. But now we have over 200 customers worldwide, really, across the spectrum. We have data centers in the United States, in Canada, in Europe, as well as the data centers hitting in New Zealand and Australia, and customers to reflect that across the globe. We have all the key security certifications across all of those different locations, and able to provide turnkey capabilities to turn on connections to Salesforce, Microsoft 365, other platforms that are out there, ServiceNow, etc., so that you can have a secure, privacy-controlled, governed platform from a single interface across all of those capabilities. If you go to the next slide, Paul. As I mentioned, we actually work with not just corporates. So we have some great customers in National Australia Bank, Bank of New Zealand. In fact, of the top 4 banks in Australia, 3 are currently working with us. We also have Macquarie Bank here. So the key kind of principal capabilities required within the banking sector. But not just the banking sector. As you can see here, a large chunk, almost 60% of our customers are in the government space. So the key regulators, APRA, ASIC, also customers using our platform, managing their issues around data inventory, data privacy, data control, and records as it rolls through. But at the upper end, one of the things I get asked a lot is what is the scale? If we go to the next slide, please, Hung, of RecordPoint, we're managing data at NAB, and we'll send these slides out so that you can deal with it. Really integrating into the APRA 234 requirements. I think the next slide, Hung. But more importantly, we're also working at the scale of New York City. So New York City has 4,000 employees, 400,000 employees, about an exabyte of content in our platform. We are managing the entirety of their data corpus end to end. If you go to the last slide there, Hung, I want to follow up with one really interesting case study. One of our customers, Delaware Life over in the US, early in February, notified us of a ransomware attack. We were able to work with them in that we had already done an inventory of all of the data they had. Delaware did not pay for the ransomware attack because we were able to call out what was the privacy risk in that data, what was the issues of the exposure of that data, and they were able to not pay, save millions of dollars because of running our platform. So thank you very much. Appreciate the time. This is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. And last but certainly not least, we have RecordSure. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, and hello, everybody. My name is Olivia Fahy and I'm a Senior Product Manager at RecordSure. Could I have the next slide, please? RecordSure is a RegTech company founded in 2012 that works with leading banks in the UK and Australia, as well as the UK government, to bring intelligent insight and action to customer conversations and interactions. We use AI and machine learning to help organisations identify how well processes are being followed, flag risk to the business, and help support compliance and customer outcomes. Our area of focus within process risk is in enabling firms to better assure the processes that should be followed between advisor or agent and customer. We use AI to support review teams with quality assurance checks, file reviews, and compliance monitoring. Have the next slide, please. File reviews are essential and obligatory part of the control framework for regulated firms, and best practice states that firms should also check the quality of all conversations between advisors and customers, regardless of communication method. In the UK, the Consumer Duty is elevating the importance of this in the context of delivering good customer outcomes. Our products, Conversation Review AI and Case Review AI, use AI to understand content, whether that is written content in documents or spoken content in conversations, and enable review teams to work more efficiently and effectively, whatever the review type. So let's take a quick look at the products and, more importantly, what they can do. First up, Conversation Review AI, which uses sophisticated speech analytics to identify themes and process risks in conversations. Next slide, please. This screen shows our Classify module, which is unique among speech analytics vendors as the only product that visually organises conversations thematically, using AI trained on use case specific conversations by our in-house subject matter experts. If you want to find the important parts of conversations that align to your review tech list, so reviewers only listen to the parts of calls that are relevant, our smart segmentation will signpost you to those sections, providing a 50% time saving per review. Next slide, please. And this is Assure, which uses AI to identify whether processes were followed and scores all calls based on their level of process adherence, highlighting those that need human review. This provides MI that can feed into central process risk reporting and eliminates the need for random sampling, as review teams are directed straight to high-risk calls, enabling an increase in their effectiveness from 5% to more like 95%. But what about conversations that aren't being recorded? For example, conversations happening face-to-face or remotely via video call. Well, they should be, and we've got an app for that. Next slide, please. Our patented capture technology lets you securely record face-to-face and VoIP meetings, creating a high-quality, authoritative, and reliable record of interactions you wouldn't otherwise have oversight of. Next slide, please. Next, we have Case Review AI, a document analytics solution that uses natural language processing techniques to automate repetitive document processing tasks and gain deeper understanding of the document's content to find and direct reviewers to the important content in large files. This screen shows an example of our AI summarization, which searches for all relevant content within all files across the case and presents a unified summary organized by review theme. File reviewers can skip directly to screenshots of the key sections they're looking for within a file rather than reading the whole thing, and can work through a thematic checklist across multiple files instead of reviewing each file document by document. Next slide, please. Our products can be used to address a variety of use cases. For everyday monitoring, we can help you to move your core quality assurance and file reviews away from random sampling to risk-based sampling, so your review teams can maximise their efficiency and effectiveness by focusing the majority of their time on high-risk cases. For thematic reviews, we can use AI to perform thematic call and case analysis, identifying key risk indicators across large volumes of cases with minimal effort, so you can focus on areas that might present greater process risk before they become a problem. And for remediation, we can use AI trained to specific parameters to support historic call analysis and past business reviews, scanning voice conversations and sifting through the weight of documentation to get straight to the cases or content that require the review team's attention. Next slide, please. We want organisations to combine their smart people with our smart tech and let AI do the heavy lifting. Our products offer smart, consistent and cost-effective solutions for regulated industries designed to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of review teams by enabling them to complete reviews 2 times faster, target high-risk cases scored by AI, get consistent outcomes every time, and identify thematic trends. If you'd like to hear more, then we'd love to chat, and you can contact us at info@recordsure.com. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. That was actually within time. Well done. Great presentation. And that brings us to the end of our speakers today. I wanted to just let you know about some events that we have coming up next. Next Thursday, we have our RegTech Edge No Borders Financial Crime, AML, CTF Sanctions Fraud Solutions. And then on the 17th of August, we have our RegTech Edge No Borders Conduct, Culture and Ethics Solutions. So we hope to see many of you online for those events. And I also wanted to mention that we're reimagining our Accelerate RegTech event and we'll be going global. More information will be available on this soon, and so just keep an eye on your emails as we send that information out. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Take care.